This is a video on how to use Anki in your preclinical coursework in medical school. It was the first week of medical school, and we had just been given an Anki deck from our upperclassmen in a Google Drive. No one ever told us how it worked, or even how we were supposed to use Anki properly in medical school. Some of us had a little familiarity with Anki from using it during undergrad, but even then, there was still a lot about pre-made decks that we didn't even know about, since most of us just made our own cards during undergrad for our classes. I remember vividly trying to unsuspend the week one content, and I started getting random cards about the rules of nine, which is something meant for burn patients. We were in anatomy class learning about the muscles of the back. This had nothing to do with anything we were learning about in the first week. So I realized I had no idea how to properly unsuspend and do cards in Anki. It took me a long time to figure out Anki, and this video is made for you to save a lot of time and be able to figure it out much faster than I did. The first thing you might ask is, what deck do I even use in my current stage of medical school? And the deck that I will always recommend, whether you're a first year student, second year, or third year student, is going to be the Anking deck for step 1 and step 2. This deck has over 35,000 high quality cards with pictures from immensely high yield resources such as First Aid and Sketchy. It also has amazing diagrams and illustrations and tables that were made by the On King team that explains everything so well. I'm not sponsored by them, I just believe this is the best deck you can get in medical school. The only catch to this deck is that it's currently paid if you want the latest version. There is a there is a free version, but it's very outdated. It doesn't have the latest tags or anything like that. It's paid, but it's only for $6 per month, and you can cancel before the first month ends, and you get to keep the deck. You just won't have any of the future updates. I highly recommend this option if you want to start using Anki during medical school, which I think you should since it's the best resource out there. If you do want to update the deck, I suggest doing it after the start of second year and also before you start studying for step 1, as the updated cards will have new mnemonics and images that will help you a lot with understanding the material. Now, your next question might be, how do I actually use this deck day to day? And I'm going to walk you through that now. Right here is my Anki home screen. As you can see, I have 3 decks currently: the Anki Step deck, an in-house neuroanatomy deck made by my professors, and a deck for learning about medical Spanish. I know all we care about is Anki. The way that we use this deck is actually pretty complicated if you're not used to using pre-made Anki decks. And even if you are, it's still pretty complicated. When you first install the deck, it will show only one card is available. It should be under instructions. Obviously, there's a lot more than one card available in this deck, but the rest of them are just all suspended right now. So the first thing you want to do is click on Browse and scroll all the way down to tags, as On King doesn't really have any individual subdecks. So everything is sorted by tags. Now let's say that today you had a lecture in GI about ulcerative colitis versus Crohn's disease. First thing we would do is go under On King Step 1 V12. And depending on what resource you use to watch that lecture, you can go under that resource and find the cards associated with that lecture. For example, if you use Pathoma to learn about the inflammatory bowel diseases, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, then you could go under the Pathoma tag and then go under GI and then go to inflammatory bowel disease. And the next thing we want to do is press Control A and then Control J, and that should unsuspend all the cards. So I'm not going to do that right now because I already have a bunch of cards going and I don't want to have these cards unsuspended. The reason that you can see on my home screen that all these cards are ready for me to review. The reason that it's showing so few right now is that I did most of these cards already for step 1. So they will be shown to me in the future rather than today. Those ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease cards, most of them are due at a future date. Now here is something very important regarding Anki. You want to use it consistently every single day, and you want to do all the cards for that day. So it should say 0 cards remaining by the end of the day. That is why I say it is so important to be very selective on which you unsuspend. For example, if you had four lectures today and one was about inflammatory bowel diseases, another one was about colorectal cancer, another one was about GI parasites, and then the final one was about antidiarrheal drugs, you want to be sure that you only suspend cards that you will be able to finish for today. Don't suspend everything all at once. Otherwise, you will see 400 plus new cards on your homepage and you won't be motivated to finish Anki for that day. And you will fall behind on your reviews, which are the green cards, which will devastate your retention. If you want more personalized help for Anki and medical school in general, or to join a like minded community of similar people, I suggest clicking the top link in the description. To put this into practice, I was only suspending around 50 to 100 new cards per day during my Step 1 dedicated. And I believe this is a good amount if you're still doing preclinical coursework. I never did that because I knew the cards would quickly pile up and I would be unable to keep up with my Anki. I believe that keeping up with a small number of Anki cards every day is more important for your retention than having like thousands of Anki cards going, but all of them are overdue or new. So you would see like maybe 700 new cards, maybe like 1,000 red cards, maybe like 100 like green cards. You don't want your Anki to look like that. It should look like this at the start of the day, maybe with like 50 new cards or something. So by the end of the day, it should say zero Anki cards, even if that means you weren't able to finish all the cards for every lecture that day. Don't worry about the other lectures. You can just tell yourself that you can do those cards on another day. For example, on the weekends, you can catch up on the other GI lectures that you didn't get to yet. Or you can do it like on a later day that week, which is like lighter. Another suggestion I will make is that you should go into the options and you should always have FSRS turned on. FSRS basically personalizes your intervals based on your history of reviews. So, for example, if FSRS estimates that I will forget something in X days, but maybe you will forget that thing in Y days, then FSRS will show me that card in X minus 1 days, while you will see that card in Y minus 1 days, since our memories and rates of retention for every person are like completely different. You can see where to turn on FSRS in the settings of each deck. It should be like right here. You just turn it on, like press optimize current preset, and it should be good. And then you can just press save. One other useful feature that desired retention, the default, one other useful feature is desired retention. And the desired retention is set to the default is set to 0.90, which is fine for most people, but I changed mine to 0.80 during dedicated because I wanted less time spent doing Anki and more time spent doing practice problems on UWorld and Amboss, so I lowered it. Consider doing that as well if you're seeing like 800 to 1,000 cards per day and like you don't want to do that many. You want to have like more time to do like UWorld blocks and Amboss blocks or NVMEs. Lowering the retention means that you'll see review cards less frequently and they'll have longer intervals between them. For example, an 80% retention means that 100-day interval becomes 240 days. And after I took step 1, I increased my retention back to 0.85 as I was no longer doing practice problems every day. So I had more time to do Anki. But I also kind of wanted to enjoy my summer break more, so I didn't want to increase it back to 0.9 and be bombarded with cards every single day. Keep in mind, though, that this will not lower your card load immediately. It will take at least a week before you see the effects of lowering your retention because there's a lot of cards that will still be due from before. And that's how you use Anki for your preclinical coursework. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you need personalized help, you can join my medical school community with the top link in the description, where you can join a community of like-minded individuals and also receive one-on-one tutoring and help with Anki or your classes or step 1 or anything else you need. Good luck with your studies, and I bid you farewell.